Okay, hello and good afternoon. My name is Carl Morrow, and this is CoGod on Air, the weekly webcast where we discuss organizational issues facing businesses today. Joining me are Adam Demling, Brianna Huggins, Carlos Machado, and Andrew Saul. This week, we are focusing on the subject of measurement, and the main question is what should businesses measure in order to enhance their competitive advantage? This discussion is actually a response to a TED Talk given by Chip Conley in 2010 where he advocated that we should focus more on measuring the intangibles that drive performance rather than the tangibles we normally measure. So, Carlos, we're going to kick off this week's discussion with you. We know that Chip Conley was an entrepreneur, and he believed that we have a hierarchy of needs clustered around survival, success, and transformation, inspired by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Can you talk about the intangibles and the tangibles that drive entrepreneurial success?
Yes, Carl, thank you very much for your question. That's actually a very good one. Actually, the tangibles and intangibles of the entrepreneurial industry aren't that different from the other ones in the other industries. And this is because the tangibles are the monetary impact that entrepreneurs can have after they start sharing their ideas. But the intangibles can be the goals, how can they achieve them, and their creativity and independence. And this is something that just like from common sense we can say that everyone has in order to be successful in any like industry.
So, how can we measure the intangibles that you mentioned?
Well, according to some research that I was doing, the best way to do it is to do surveys for the entrepreneurs because actually they like to see how can they impact society with their ideas. So in an attempt to measure their creativity, their level of independence, so they can see how they are impacting others, and this is actually going to motivate more entrepreneurs to get into this business.
Okay. I know you also looked into the notion of the psychological state of flow. So, what is that, and what impact does that have on entrepreneurial success?
Well, yeah, the theory of flow is actually very fascinating. Mr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is a very well-known person in the pursuit of happiness type of psychology, and what he says about flow is that it's actually a state of mind for people instead of being motivated from start a new idea and then growing and growing a little bit more. It's actually a state of mind where people can actually feel more productive when they're doing something. And a good example of this is when basketball players are about to dunk the ball. They're not thinking about which exact thing are they going to do 2 seconds before they do it. It's just that they feel so pumped, so motivated that they want to do it. And this is a great thing because the theory of flow is actually very correlated to the what entrepreneurs in the TED Talks actually do.
Okay, great. Adam, we're going to switch over to you and talk about the legal profession. We know that you just graduated from law school. So, what measures get measured in the legal? What tangibles, sorry, get measured in the legal profession?
Sure. Thanks, Carl. Billable hours have defined the industry. Attorneys are largely measured on the hours they bill clients. This is a key performance measure, but it really doesn't align the interests of the firm and the clients themselves.
So, what intangibles do you feel should get measured in the legal industry?
Sure. Well, first, let me start by saying that the legal industry is one defined by autonomy, and this really creates a leadership gap. There needs to be a move to measure intangibles, including leadership and collaboration within firms. Law firms can also take something from Connolly's TED Talk, and they need to measure customer service and the collaboration they have with clients.
Okay. Now, like everyone in our country, the legal industry was hard hit with the recession. So, how has the recession forced the industry at large to reconsider how to evaluate performance?
Well, there have been calls to end billable hours before the recession, but the recession really magnified the need for change, and in some cases, it's forced it. Alternative fee arrangements have become more prevalent, which require the firm to collaborate more with the clients and to meet their needs.
Okay. Well, thank you, Adam. Now let's segue into the world of sports. And some people may ask what the topic of sports has to do with organizational behavior, but all sports teams are organizations, and actually sports are on the cutting edge of measuring performance. So one of the most important positions in sports is the NFL quarterback. And several years ago, ESPN debuted a new QB rating system. So Brianna, can you tell us what the old system measured?
Sure. So the old system that we've been using for the past few decades is the NFL passer rating, and it's a system where it takes into account those very straightforward, easy to measure tangibles, so to speak. So things like completion percentage, average yards per attempt, percentage of touchdown passage, and percentage of interceptions. Very basic, straight to the point.
So why did ESPN feel the need to create a new metric, and how did they develop it?
Well, to sort of rephrase what I read in a Harvard Management article, all plays and players in a game are important, but not all are strategic and have a maximum impact on the outcome of the game. So ESPN was thinking we need to create a metric with the goal of capturing in more robust detail those strategic plays executed by the quarterback that contributed to the outcome of the game.
So what does this new system measure?
So it's a new statistical measure that incorporates the context and the details of throws or passes and what they mean for wins. It's built from the team level down to the quarterback. So first what we do is we understand what each play means to the team. Then we give credit to the quarterback for what happened on each play based on what he contributed. And so some other things that they take into consideration are situational performances, career patterns. There's a clutch-weighted EPA component, styles of play, and fantasy predictions. One of the biggest factors included in this new performance measure, which is kind of that intangible we've been speaking of, is that clutch-weighted average. And so what it does is gives a higher weight based on how critical that situation or how clutch that play is. So if the stakes are really high in a given play, that will get more credit towards that quarterback's QBR.
Excellent, excellent. Now we're going to switch over to Andrew. And Andrew, you looked at social media, and social media is definitely huge today. And you looked at how investors, advertisers, and analysts measure social media. So what tangibles are actually measured in social media?
Thank you, Carl. Investors and analysts look at ad revenue. Facebook's expenses are also going up as they're trying to expand more to the mobile market. So that's something else that analysts have been looking at. But to me, that's not what makes Facebook special.
Well, what makes it special? Or in other words, what drives social media success, and how can that be measured?
Sure. Success in social media is all about the dialogue it creates. It's a constant conversation which breaks down barriers of communication. Geography isn't the communication constraint it used to be. And for businesses, the CEO of any company can go on Facebook and see how people are responding to them, getting rid of a company's hierarchical barriers. Now, some of this can be measured tangibly, such as Facebook's population size of 1 billion people, and some measurements are more intangible.
Well, going off of that intangible comment, what intangibles are measured, or which ones do you feel should be measured?
Well, you're trying to measure that dialogue. So companies with pages on Facebook are measuring that through likes, comments, and shares, which all has a certain value to these companies. There are other intangibles that aren't measured as well that are more important to analysts and investors who are looking towards the future of what Facebook can do. These intangibles are the general happiness of customers, employees, as well as the social good Facebook can do, like creating communication between protesters in the Middle East.
So throwing it back to the group, in this last segment, what do you think actually drives success more, tangible or intangible issues, and why?
Carl, that's a great question. I think we really can't have one without the other. We really need to strike a balance and consider both to have a full picture.
Okay. And what do you think, Brianna?
I completely agree with Adam. I think you really do need to have a balance. You have to figure out what it is that is going to actually drive the behaviors that you want for your organization. So for some people, the intangibles may look a little different, but you can't necessarily negate your tangibles. So figuring out that balance that works best for your organization.
Okay. And how about you, Carlos?
Yes, I feel the same way completely. It has to be a complement of tangibles and intangibles, and this relates to one TED Talk that I once saw about the perpetual vacation that was the topic. And this is completely related to flow. This is something that reassures, in my opinion, that a complement is the best way to go for like ultimate success and happiness.
Okay. Andrew, we'll give you the last word.
Thank you, Carl. Absolutely, you need both tangible and intangibles to measure success. But I will definitely argue that intangibles are what makes a company unique. You know, I think what makes Facebook stick out to all of us is what it has accomplished intangibly, and not what it's accomplished with its revenues.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions. For Adam, Brianna, Carlos, and Andrew, I'm Carl. This is CoGod on Air, and we're out.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much,
Carl.
Carl.